Hello everyone, welcome to Biology Crash Course 2021. This chapter, Neural Control and Coordination, I have written some concepts here. Just recall it. We have already studied all these concepts in your first year PUC. Okay, so from this particular chapter, you get one question for your NEET and one question for your Karnataka CET. Okay, let us see that. Some concepts. Let me just cover it superficially. Okay, so in brief, I'll explain some concepts. This is a human neural system. That is the first concept of the chapter. Okay, so human neural system is divided into two parts. You know that CNS, that is central neural system, which contains brain and the spinal cord. Okay, PNS, the periphery. What is the meaning of periphery? This is periphery. Got it? Okay, so peripheral neural system. There are two types of neural system. One is autonomic or autonomous neural system. Okay, so this is somatic neural system. I forgot to write. There are again two types in autonomic neural system. There are two types, very important. You can expect this one for your competitive part. The first one is sympathetic neural system, and the second one is the exactly opposite type of neural system, that is parasympathetic neural system. Okay, so sympathetic, what is the function of sympathetic neural system? It always rises the activity of any tissue or organ in our body. For example, when you see a snake, obviously your heartbeat increases, correct? Whenever you are afraid, obviously your heartbeat increases. This is because of the activity of sympathetic nervous system. Always remember this, it increases the activity of any other organ in our body. Okay, any of the organ in our body. Whereas parasympathetic neural system is nothing but it always decreases or maintains. Okay, after 5 or 10 minutes, obviously your heartbeat should come to the normal range, that is 72 times per minute. That is because of parasympathetic neural system, which brings back any organ's activity to normal. Okay, so after sympathetic neural system's activity done. Okay, so here brain and spinal cord, I'm going to deal with that. Okay, so next is the neuron. So very simple. Here you can expect some question. So this is the head of the neuron called as the cell body, and this long slender cylindrical structure is called as the axon, and this structure is actually the end of axon called as axon terminal. Axon terminal has so many branches. Okay, so like this, and these branches are called as synaptic knob, axon terminal, axon, cell body, and this cell body has projected structures called as dendrites. Okay, so this is the basic structure. Okay, like all other cells, it also got nucleus, that means chromosomes are present, and it has got the cytoplasm, the liquid. But in the cytoplasm you could see dotted like structure. Yes, so these dotted like structures are nothing but called as Nissil's granule. Please note this point, very important, Nissil's granules. So what is the function of Nissil's granules, or what are Nissil's granules? Nissil's granules are a bit of modified parts, ruptured parts of endoplasmic reticulum. Like all other cells, this neuron also got endoplasmic reticulum, even the mitochondria, Golgi apparatus, everything. Okay, so the endoplasmic reticulums, whenever it ruptures, it releases tiny particles which is called as Nissil's granules. Nissil's granules also looks like ribosomes. We all know that ribosomes in all cells of our body are the sites of protein synthesis. In neuron, Nissil's granules are the sites of protein synthesis. Note this point. Okay, so they synthesize protein. You can expect this question. Got it? Okay. Next, here, this is the axon, and axon contains a liquid like cytoplasm. It is not called as cytoplasm, it is called as axoplasm. Okay, axoplasm play an important role in conducting action potential from this region to this region. Okay, so this was site. This is the axon terminal, and you could see the bulb-like structure. This is called a synaptic knob. If I just draw it like this, it looks like this, and inside it has got tiny circles, vesicular structures, small vessel-like structures. Okay, these vessel-like structures are called as synaptic vesicles. Okay. Now, when the action potential arrives here at the synaptic knob, it hits the synaptic vesicles. Okay. Now, with the help of calcium ions, So remember that without calcium ions, synaptic vesicles cannot move to the end of the synaptic knob where plasma membrane is here. That means like entire axon is surrounded by plasma membrane. This is the boundary, plasma membrane. Okay. So here, this is the plasma membrane. Remember that there are many chemicals which is going to inhibit, that is stop the activity of calcium. If calcium cannot bind to the synaptic vesicles, even though we have action potential, the synaptic vesicle cannot reach the end of the synaptic knob to release a chemical called as neurotransmitters, because we know that synaptic vesicles contain tiny structures. They are called as neurotransmitter. Correct. So you people have heard about neuromuscular junction. That is, for example, this is the muscle cell and this is the neuron which is connected to the muscle cell. What is the plasma membrane of the muscle cell? Sarcolemma. Correct. And this is the end of the neuron. Okay. That is motor neuron. Motor neuron. You know that. Okay. So here neuromuscular junction is there. Fine. And exactly here the junction is there, that is called as neuromuscular junction. Yes, I said already. Okay, so now here the synaptic knob actually containing synaptic vesicles which contain specialized neurotransmitter which help in the locomotion and movement, that is muscular activity, skeletal muscle activity. That neurotransmitters are called as, I'll write here, please write on this, acetylcholine. Remember that, you get the question. Name the neurotransmitter which is associated with skeletal muscles. That is actually acetylcholine, that is present in the motor neuron. Got it? Okay. So there are so many neurotransmitters. For example, serotonin, dopamines. Okay, fine. So that's the thing. Now we'll just classify the neuron. Before that, I just have to tell you this. I'll have to tell you this. See, this axon is surrounded by some cells. Can you see this? Rectangular boxes. These are modified glial cells. What is the meaning of this glial cells? Glial cells are the tiny cells which normally present around the neuron to give protection to the neuron. That's it. Okay. Here we have a specialized glial cells. Here, this one, they are called as Schwann cells. Schwann cells. Okay. So these Schwann cells are modified glial cells. Remember this. Okay. So what is the function of this Schwann cell? If you look into the Schwann cell, they are also normal cells. They also exhibit nucleus. Okay. And between each Schwann cell, there is a gap. Correct. This gap is very important. Okay. So that gap is called as nodes of Ranvier. Remember that nodes of Ranvier is present between the two Schwann cells. That is actually the junction. Got it? A gap. Okay. So they play an important role in saltatory conduction. I'll explain it. Okay, so this is the thing. Now, let me erase it. Okay. Let me just draw a neuron now. Okay, fine. And we have Schwann cell. Not all neurons exhibit have the protection, that is Schwann cells. Some neurons may not have Schwann cells. Okay, see, these Schwann cells have the ability to produce a fatty layer. Okay, fatty layer, and that fatty layer is called as myelin sheath. Okay, myelin sheath. Okay, so myelin sheath is nothing but the fatty layer which is secreted by Schwann cell. Okay, so these Schwann cells, when it produces myelin sheath, obviously entire neuron is now insulated. Got it? And these type of neurons are called as myelinated neurons, are also called as myelinated axons. Don't get confused. Myelinated axon and myelinated neuron both are same, one and the same. Okay. So whereas some neurons may not have the Schwann cells, and they are actually called as non-myelinated. That's it. Okay. You may get a question, where exactly we see myelinated neurons? You see the myelinated neurons in the spinal and cranial nerves. Please write down this. Very, very important. Myelinated neurons seen in cranial and spinal nerves. Okay. So non-myelinated neurons will be, where exactly you see them? You see them in autonomous nervous system. Very important, note this point. Autonomous nervous system actually have neurons where they don't have Schwann cells. That means no myelin sheath. Okay, there is no protection for the neuron. So that is autonomic nervous system, non-myelinated neuron. Note this point. Very important. Okay, done. So we got two types of neuron based on the presence of Schwann cells. Okay, so that is myelinated and non-myelinated. That is absence of Schwann cell. Okay, again neuron can be classified into three types. So we can classify them into three types: unipolar, bipolar, and multipolar. Okay, so simple. Uni means, so this is the neuron, looks like a baby. So simple, you just imagine a baby, because unipolar neuron doesn't have dendrites, no dendrites. Okay, you see one axon, only one axon, no dendrites. Done. That is unipolar neuron. But the question could be like, where exactly you see unipolar neuron? That is in the embryonic stage. That's what I said, like remember or imagine a baby. Okay, embryonic stage. Only in embryonic stage. We all had unipolar neuron, but now we don't have it. Okay, so whereas what about the bipolar neuron? So in our retina of the eye, we have three layered or three cells, okay, which is arranged in a continuous manner, that is from outside to inside. The outside cell layer is called as the photoreceptor cells. There are two types of photoreceptor cells, rods and cones. Okay, the middle one is the bipolar neuron. The last one, which is actually connected to the optic nerve, is called as ganglion cells. So bipolar neurons are the cells which is present between photoreceptor and ganglion cells in our retina. Okay, so bipolar means what? Two. So one axon, one dendrite. Okay, where do you see them? Retina. Write down this. Multipolar, common neurons which got or which has multiple dendrites. You see more than three dendrites, multiple dendrites, but one axon. This is actually called as multipolar neuron. Where do you see this multipolar neuron? You normally see them in our cerebral cortex region. What is cerebral cortex? It is the outer portion of the brain. What is the color of outer portion of the brain? Gray or white? Gray. That's what it is called as gray matter. Why it is gray matter? Because maximum number of the cell body of the neurons are present there. Got it? But if you go deep into the brain, you see white color structure. That is called as white matter. It is also called as cerebral medulla. See, cerebral cortex means outside, medulla means inside. Cerebral medulla is also called as white matter because the axons are there, cell bodies are absent there. Got it? Okay, so this is what you see, the cerebral cortex, multipolar neuron. Got it? Okay, so that's it. So we are done with neurons. Now I'll talk about one more concept, that is in myelinated neuron. Okay, so we just again draw the neuron and synaptic knob. Here we have the Schwann cells which provide insulation to the entire axon. Okay, so what we have here, axoplasm, we have liquid, and here nodes of Ranvier. Got it? Okay, so now let us imagine that. Okay, so what is this? This is actually the Schwann cells have the ability to produce a fatty layer called as myelin sheath. Okay, so the entire neuron is now called as myelinated neuron. In myelinated neuron, you see this type of action potential conduction. What is conduction? Transmission. Okay, what is that? Saltatory conduction. Very, very important. You get a question, or like saltatory conduction is seen in only in myelinated neuron. Okay, where fatty layer is produced from the Schwann cell. Done. So what is this saltatory conduction? Let us imagine that somehow here stimulus produces action potential in the one side of the dendrite. Okay, that is the starting point of the neuron, and now action potential start traveling till the starting point of the axon. Correct? So this is the starting point of the axon, and from here the action potential, we all know that like action potential is nothing but electric current. Okay, so I'll explain it later. Now the action potential has to be produced at each region of the axon, like this. Got it? So if it produces like that, it takes a lot of time. Got it? So in the brain, we need a very fast conduction of action potential. That is transmission of the electrical impulse that should take place within a fraction of a second, rapid movement. So for that, we are supposed to save a lot of time actually for that. So here the action potential which arrives here should jump to the nodes wherever you see the gap between two cells. It jumps like this, jumps. That means here in this region where the insulation is there from the Schwann cell, you don't see any action potential. That means action potential, it is here, it jumps to this place, this place, this place. Got it? It's nothing but called as saltatory conduction. Action potential skips the insulated region of the axon and it's produced in the nodes of Ranvier. Got it? It's like a jumping manner. Okay, so that is nothing but skipping of the action potential in the myelinated axon. That is actually called as saltatory conduction, jumping. I'll tell you what is exactly action potential and all this stuff. Okay, let us recall it. So we are done with the neuron. Okay, next up, action potential. What is action potential? Electric current, or in other words we can say that nerve impulse. Okay, so I'm going to take a portion of axon because no need to draw the cell body. Okay, so axon, this is axon, and what is this? Axoplasm. What is this? Outside of the neuron. So we all know that if you just take a cell and the cell got the ability to secrete liquid, secretions. Okay, so that liquid is called as ECF. What is ECF? Extracellular fluid. Extra. The cell obviously contain liquid, water. Okay, so extra water. Okay, which goes out of the cell, and actually the ECF will be present around the cells. In this case, neuron, where it produces a liquid called as ECF, extracellular fluid, that is outside. This is inside of the neuron, that is axoplasm. Okay, so action potential has three phases. The first phase is called as polarized phase. Okay, what is the meaning of polarized phase? It is also called as resting membrane potential. What is resting membrane potential? It is the electrochemical concentration gradient across the plasma membrane when a neuron is not conducting any action potential. It is completely at rest. It's at rest. Okay, that is actually resting membrane potential. In other words, it is polarized. I'll tell you what is polarized state. Okay, so next is depolarized. Always remember, if you get any question regarding polarizing of a neuron or axon, means D means disturbance. Depolarized, disturbance. Okay, that means something has happened. That is nothing but action potential. Okay, depolarized. Depolarized. Okay, so what is depolarized state? It is nothing but action potential. It is also called as nerve impulse. NI, nerve impulse. Got it? Next, after depolarization, the site of the neuron has to come back to this state. That is original state. Okay, so that is called as repolarization. Done? Okay, so now let us just erase this portion. Polarized, depolarized, repolarization. Remember this, very important. You get a lot of question actually, one question, but there is a high possibility. So inside of the axoplasm, this neuron is not conducting any action potential. It is completely at rest. Okay, so here we have around 3 sodium ions. Okay, but we have how many potassium ions? More than sodium ions. That means potassium ion concentration is very high compared to sodium ion concentration, correct? Okay, the number of potassium ion is more than sodium ions. At the same time, there will be negatively charged proteins. When you see this, when neuron is completely at rest, that is polarized state. Okay, negatively charged proteins will be there. As a result, inside of the plasma membrane will have negative charge. See, minus negative charge. So axoplasm will have negative charge. And the voltage which is present within the plasma membrane will be minus 70 millivolts. Note this point. You may get a question like, what is the voltage of the plasma membrane at resting membrane potential? Minus 70 millivolts. Got it? Okay. Outside, we have more number of sodium ions. More. We have maximum number of sodium ions in the ECF. Okay. Compared to potassium ions. See how many potassium ions are there? Around 4 are there, but sodium ions more than 10. Correct. So this is the thing. So here, what you see? Chemical concentration gradient. Correct. Between sodium inside with sodium outside. At the same time, potassium with potassium outside. So this is chemical concentration difference. At the same time, outside, what is the charge? We have positive charge during resting membrane potential. See, this is electrical concentration gradient. Got it? Or potential difference. Electrical potential difference is also there. At the same time, chemical potential difference is also there across the plasma membrane. This is seen at resting membrane potential. Got it? Remember it. Okay. So this is resting membrane potential. The neuron is not even conducting any action potential. Okay. So now, let us imagine we have one stimulus here. Okay, when a stimulus arrives to the region A, so let us just divide this neuron or axon into three parts, A, B, C. So A, B, C. So here stimulus arrives at a particular part of the axon, and we already have negative charge, more potassium ions here, and negatively charged protein, less sodium ions. But outside we have more sodium ions. Always remember this. I will take some time. Okay, so this is the thing. At the same time, potassium ions also there, but less. Now, when the stimulus arrives, what you see is we have some voltage gated ion channels here on the plasma membrane. Some ion channels will be there on the plasma membrane. There are two types in the neuron. One is sodium ion channel. The other one is potassium ion channel. Sodium ion channel always permits the entry of sodium. Sodium always allows the sodium ions itself. Got it? Whereas potassium ion channel allows only potassium ions. That's it. Okay. So here, when the stimulus arrives here, automatically the sodium ion channel here, this one, the white color one, will open now. They open. Now, all the sodium ions which were outside starts to enter into the exoplasm. Got it? They start entering into the exoplasm. This is called as influx of sodium ions. Got it? Influx. As a result, it overtake the number of potassium ions. Got it? Now, the charge, earlier it was negative, but it becomes now positive because of rapid influx of sodium ions into exoplasm. Okay. Outside, we have very less number of sodium ions because already they have entered into the exoplasm. So, concentration of potassium ions increases automatically, and that gives negative charge. Now you see chemical potential difference, at the same time electrical potential difference, that is reversal of the charge. Earlier negative inside, positive outside, but now everything is reversed. This is called as depolarized state. Everything is disturbed. Depolarized. What is depolarized now? Action potential. Now this is now called as nerve impulse or action potential. Done? Got it right? Okay, so this is the thing. Now, the action potential which is generated at site A now starts shifting to site B of the axon. Okay, so earlier, like normally we know that negative charge will be there, outside we have positive charge, correct? So this is the thing, we know that. Okay, we have more potassium ions, less sodium ions here. We have more sodium ions, less potassium ions here. Normal, that is polarized state, polarized. Now when the action potential shift to this state, obviously everything starts to reverse. That is, action potential is now produced in the region B. Same thing will happen here. And now, this is not even conducting action potential. It's not required now. It's gone to region B. So, it has to regain its original state. That is polarized state. That state, or like getting into that state, is called as repolarized state. Repolarized state. Okay, now in the repolarized state, the sodium ions what we have here earlier, because of the rapid influx of sodium ions, they starts moving out. How many sodium ions starts moving out in the repolarized state? That is 3 sodium ions. So you see 3 sodium ions efflux. Efflux means from inside to outside. And 2 sodium ions influx will be seen. Because we need more potassium ions. I think I said potassium ions. Okay. So 2 potassium ions get inside. 3 sodium ions get outside. Got it? So this is the exchange. Always remember this, and this is seen only in repolarizing state. Repolarizing state. This is very, very important. Okay, so this is the thing. Now we are done with that. Got it? For 3 sodium ions, 2 potassium ions influx will be seen. 3 sodium ions, efflux will be seen. This is very important. Okay, so that's all about action potential now. So 3 stages will be seen in action potential: polarized, depolarized, and repolarized state. Always remember that. Next is we go to this. What is this term called as synapse? Synapse is nothing but it is the transmission of action potential between the 2 neurons. Okay, so this is one neuron and this is the other neuron. So action potential jumps from one neuron to other neuron is called as synapse. There are 2 types of synapse. One is called as electrical synapse. Electrical synapse will be seen in only insects. Okay, that's the reason why they are very quick compared to human beings. Whereas human beings or other mammals or vertebrates obviously have chemical synapse. That means, what is the meaning of chemical here? With the help of neurotransmitters, the synapse occurs. Neurotransmitters are compulsory. Okay, chemical synapse. In this case, neurotransmitters are absent in the electrical synapse. Okay, so let me just draw the chemical synapse diagram. This diagram is given in your NCERT. So there is a high possibility of getting the question. Okay, very simple, very easy also. So this is the synaptic knob of one neuron. So this is the last or end portion of the neuron, correct? And this is called as presynaptic membrane, correct? Because it is the plasma membrane, presynaptic. And you see a gap. This gap is filled with a liquid called as synaptic cleft. What do you call? Synaptic cleft. And this region is actually the starting point of another neuron. Okay, it could be dendrite. Okay, so this is the plasma membrane of the dendrite of another neuron, which is called as postsynaptic membrane. Got it? Okay, so now what we have here, the action potential arrives to the synaptic knob. Now calcium ions are required. This calcium ion with action potential now hits this synaptic vesicles, and these synaptic vesicles starts moving towards the plasma membrane, that is presynaptic membrane, and ultimately it reaches the plasma membrane and it opens with the help of the calcium ions. Okay, opens to release the neurotransmitters. These are specialized chemicals, and these neurotransmitters, they swim in the synaptic cleft and ultimately reaches the postsynaptic membrane, where the specialized receptors for the neurotransmitters are present. Okay, they are going to accept these neurotransmitters, and now action potential is now generated in the postsynaptic membrane of the new neuron. Done. So this is called as synapse, and with the help of neurotransmitter, hence it is called as chemical synapse. Remember that it is obviously slow process. In the case of electrical synapse, this is postsynaptic cleft or region or membrane. Okay, so is there any synaptic cleft? No, there is no gap. So imagine how action potential transmit from one neuron to other neuron within a fraction of a second. Here they save a lot of time, correct? So that is electrical synapse. Okay, so normally seen in spiders or insects. Okay, so that is all about synapse. Fine. So we go to the next one, that is reflex action. Okay, brain. We'll talk about brain. Very simple. Okay, so we just draw a rough diagram. Okay, so yeah, what is this? This is the spinal cord. And what is this? Medulla. What is this? Pons. Pons always acts as relay station. Okay, whatever the messages from different nerves comes to the brain, first they have to arrive at pons. Pons acts like a relay station. Okay, then actually it transmit that action potential from the different nerves into the brain parts. Okay, so this is actually like a station. Okay, and now we have a structure here. This is actually called as little cerebrum. What is it? Cerebellum. Cerebellum. Remember, cerebellum is also called as little cerebrum. Okay, fine. So what is this? This is actually the place where the pituitary is present here. Pituitary, then actually hypothalamus and thalamus. Okay, so thalamus, hypothalamus, pituitary. It is the order. Okay, so this is actually the major portion of the brain, correct? And the brain is actually surrounded by a very tough skeletal system, and the name of the skeletal system is called as skull. In biology it is called as cranium. Okay, cranium. So you may get a question, name the membrane which protects the brain. Not cranium, it is actually called as cranial meninges. So here we have a membrane which is present between the cranium and the brain outer surface. So this is called as cranial meninges. Note this point, very important. Cranial meninges. The cranial meninges has three layers. See, this is the outermost layer which actually touches the inner layer of the skull. Inner layer of the skull has one membrane of the cranial meninges, that is actually called as dura mater. From outside to inside, I am starting from outside, that is below the skull to the outer surface of the brain, of the cranial meninges. Okay, dura mater. In the middle, just below the dura mater, we have one more layer of the cranial meninges called as arachnoid. Okay, so here to the outer of the brain surface, we have one more layer of the cranial meninges, that is called as pia mater. Very important. Don't forget this. How do you remember this? D-A-P, DAP. From outside to inside, DAP, dura mater, arachnoid, pia mater. You get this question to arrange it. Okay, so they may give you this question. No, don't forget. Note this point. Now between arachnoid and pia mater, that is between the innermost to the middle layer, there is a liquid between. So if this is the pia mater and this is the arachnoid, there is a gap. Okay, so this gap is filled with the liquid. The name of the liquid is called as CSF. Please write down the full form of it. Cerebral spinal fluid. Cerebral spinal fluid is present in the cranial meninges, that is only seen between arachnoid and pia mater, not between dura and arachnoid. Not this point. So here we see CSF. Done. Okay. Chalo. Next, we will go with the brain parts. The brain, normally you see three important parts. The first part of the brain, that is actually, before that, let me just talk about the spinal cord, because I may forget. In the spinal cord, okay, so this is the spinal cord now, okay, which run till the coccyx bone. Okay, so this is the outside of the spinal cord, and in the center, it has got a canal, like a pipe, okay, empty space. That canal is filled with the same liquid that is called as CSF, cerebrospinal fluid. You may get a question, name the fluid present inside the spinal cord. Cerebrospinal fluid, same liquid. Okay, done. Okay, what is the outermost layer of the spinal cord color? What is the color of it? It is exactly opposite to your brain color. Brain from outside looks gray, whereas inside white. But spinal cord outside white, inside gray. Exactly opposite. Note this point. Okay, I'll tell you the reason. White means because here axons are there, because we know that, for example, if this is the dendroid and this is the cell body, this is the axon. Okay, see, the axon is coming out of the spinal cord, correct, right? So this is the spinal cord, and you see this is the axon which is coming out of the spinal cord. You know, they are nerves, correct? But in this case it is exactly opposite. Okay, so the brain is divided into three important parts, that is prosencephalon. It is also called as forebrain. Okay, forebrain mainly contains important part, that is called as cerebrum. Done. Okay, so second part, there are four parts actually, but in your textbook they have given three. Okay, let me explain it. Second part is called as diencephalon. Di means two, cephalon means brain. Okay, so diencephalon, two, that is containing two important structure which is also located within the forebrain of the brain. Okay, so that is thalamus and hypothalamus. Please note this point, I will not write full. Thalamus, hypothalamus in diencephalon. Okay, so prosencephalon, forebrain, only cerebrum is present. Okay, so this is cerebrum. This is cerebrum. It is the major portion of the brain, cerebrum. Okay, it has got certain structures. I'll talk about it later. Okay, so that is it. Next we go to the third part, that is this part. This is the mid of the brain, midbrain. Okay, so the midbrain is called as mesencephalon. Meson means middle. Okay, mesencephalon. So in the middle part, you don't see any like particular structure of the brain, but this one, corpora quadrigemina, kind of like structure is present. quadri means 4. Like at the base of the brain, you could see 4 lobes. That is corpora quadrigemina. Okay, so fine. And next one, that is the fourth one, the last one, that is the hind brain. This is the midbrain, hind brain. It is also called as rhombencephalon. Okay, rhombencephalon. It contains 3 important parts. Very simple: PCM, physics, chemistry, mathematics. So this is physics, pons. This is chemistry. That is, oh sorry, this is chemistry, cerebellum, and this is mathematics. That is medulla. Done. So that is actually rhombencephalon, containing 3 parts. Done. Okay. Now we'll just give you the brief account of the forebrain, that is cerebrum. Cerebrum is the important portion of the brain, and many of the activities normally takes place in the cerebrum. Okay, so everything, almost all. Okay, so cerebrum is divided into 2 hemispheres. You know that, right hemisphere, left hemisphere. You know that there is a cleft here. Okay, so from outside you could see kind of like ridges, correct? So ridges will be there, and even like you can put your fingers inside. Okay, so what do you call for that? That is called as the gyri and sulci. What is the function of gyri and sulci in the brain? Now they just increase the surface area of the brain. Note this point. Okay, so cerebrum is divided into 2 important hemispheres: right cerebral hemisphere, left cerebral hemisphere. Okay, sorry. Fine. Now cerebrum can also be divided into 2 parts based on the color. From outside, it is actually grayish in color. So that is called as gray matter. Cerebrum outside is called as gray matter. It is also called as cerebral cortex. Cerebral cortex, gray matter. Why gray matter? Because cell bodies are present, more dendrites are present. Whereas the other part is the inside, white matter. Okay, so that is cerebral medulla. Maximum number of axons are there. That gives white color to the middle portion of the brain. Okay, so this is the thing. Other than that, there are certain parts in the cerebrum. Okay, I think I'm taking time. Okay, that is association area. You see association area. You may expect some question from this. Association areas are the tiny areas present within the cerebrum, particularly in the cerebral cortex region, and they are mainly for your communication and intersensory functions. Okay, like communication between different parts of the brain, and other than that, I think language. No, sorry, it's fine. Okay, communication, intersensory function is fine. One more function is there, I don't recall it. Fine. So next one, remember this. Broca's area, very important. The other one is Wernicke's area. These 2 are very important, could be asked. Okay, Broca's area is very important, like that is the region of understanding speech. Okay, speech. That is Broca's area. Whereas Wernicke's area is bit different. That is actually, kind of understanding language. I'm talking to you, so you are understanding. I don't know. Okay, fine. So anyhow, I believe that you understand this. Okay, so understanding the language. So that is, and even speech. Understanding language and speech is by Wernicke's areas, whereas production, like the speech formation, takes place in Broca's area. Note this point. That is also seen in cerebral cortex. Okay, fine. Next is we go to the diencephalon, that is thalamus. Sensory and locomotion function. Sensory, locomotion are the main function of thalamus. Okay, we go to the next one, hypothalamus. So hypothalamus is mainly important for thermoregulation. In one of the CET questions, question paper, I saw this question like thermoregulation. Like a patient got cancer of hypothalamus, and his characters are nothing but like way he got a different irregular thermoregulation now. That is irregularity in the temperature, and he couldn't control his thirst and hunger. Okay, so that is hypothalamus function. So thirst plus hunger. So remember the 3 function of the hypothalamus. Very, very important. Thermoregulation, hypothalamus. Thirst, hunger controlled by, regulated by Hypothalamus. Feel like feeling like having food or feeling like drinking water. That is because of hypothalamus. Okay, so that is diencephalon. You may get a question like, name the structure of the brain which actually connects to cerebral hemisphere, like hemisphere. We can easily separate them, but at the center something is there, some tissue is there. It is made up of millions of neurons. Got it? That is called as corpus callosum. Remember that corpus callosum actually connects or holds two hemispheres. Note this point. Done. Next one is the midbrain. Done. The hindbrain. In that we have pons. As I said, like they are relay station. Okay. Note this point. Whereas cerebellum, also called as little cerebrum, and it provides space for millions of or more neurons. So it is the site where you see more number of neurons, and it has got one more function, that is maintenance of body posture. Got it? So automatically cerebellum is helping me to bring back to my original position. That is actually cerebellum. Body posture and balance. Okay. Even ear also helps. Okay, cerebellum. Next one is medulla. Yeah. Medulla oblongata, we all know that it is also called as a respiratory center. It also regulates your cardiovascular activities. Okay, and even it also controls the gastric gland secretions. Like in the stomach, there are certain glands which secretes a hormone. For example, gastrin. Okay, everything is regulated by the medulla. Medulla has three functions: control of respiration, cardiovascular activity, that is vasodilation, vasoconstriction, okay, even heart rate also. Okay, then it controls gastric gland secretions, like what amount of hormone that has to be secreted into the cavity, that is alimentary canal, okay, by the medulla. Okay, so this is about the brain. Done. So we are done with the brain. Next is reflex action. So in your NCERT textbook there is one diagram, okay, that is actually reflex action that is associated with the spinal cord, not brain. So we are going to draw the spinal cord. That is, you take a spinal cord and cut it. Okay, take the transverse section of it. Okay, that is horizontal section. It looks like this. Almost looks like a butterfly. Okay, so sorry, yeah, like this. It looks like this, and this is colored white. Why white? You know that, white matter. Whereas this is the inside portion, which also looks like a tiny butterfly. Oh, sorry. Whatever. So it is gray in color. Gray, white in color. Okay, fine. So here we have two neurons. Like not two neurons, actually specific neurons. Okay, associated with a specific function. This neuron, which in the gray matter of the spinal cord, is called as sensory neurons. What do you call? Sensory neurons. What is the function of sensory neuron? They actually take the impulse, or like the stimulus, that is the sense stimulus. For example, olfaction, or maybe the vision, or maybe like the touch, that is even cutaneous, even gustatory, taste, everything. Okay, sensory. And just below that we have motor neurons. What is motor neuron? See, it goes to my CNS. It could be brain or it could be my spinal cord through a set of nerves called as afferent. Afferent means from the site of stimulus to the CNS. Afferent, AFF. Always remember that afferent nerve fibers are the nerves, which could be cranial nerves or which could be peripheral nerves of the CNS. Okay, remember that. That is afferent. Afferent in the sense like PNS nerves. Okay, nerves coming from CNS, that is the brain as well as spinal cord. Okay, afferent. Whereas from the CNS to the site of stimuli, because we need to show our response, correct? That is regulatory response. That is actually from CNS to the site of stimulus. That is by efferent. Okay, so we have motor neuron here, and between the two there is a neuron which connects sensory neuron to motor neuron, and that is called as interneuron. Note this point, interneuron. Done. Okay, so now let us assume that here we have a set of nerve fibers which are called as afferent nerve fibers. Afferent nerve fibers. That means it is understood. Somewhere else in our body, a tissue, there is a neuron which is called a sensory neuron which receives the sense, that is stimulus. Okay, receive the stimuli, convert into action potential, and now it moves to this side in this direction. Afferent. Okay, now the sense is now the sensory neurons actually process that and ultimately pass that message to the motor neuron, and the motor neuron actually now comes back to the site of stimuli like this. Direction is this one, efferent nerve fiber, ENF. Okay, so the direction is like this, and ultimately you show the response, and this entire mechanism is called as reflex action. What is reflex action? It is unconscious, rapid, involuntary response by the CNS to a stimulus. Done. That is actually action potential. Oh, sorry, reflex action. Whereas you could see the path. See this? What is the path? From the site of stimulus to the CNS, that could be brain or the spinal cord, then like this. See? This is called as reflex arc. It is the kind of like action which is actually, or like which is the path followed by a reflex action. It is the path followed by reflex action. Path followed by reflex action is called as reflex arc. I didn't write here, reflex arc. So that's all about reflex. I forgot to say one thing here. So you could see a small opening here from the like spinal cord. These nerves actually comes out. Got it? Okay. This is called as dorsal root of ganglion. Dorsal root of ganglion. Please note this point. What is dorsal root of ganglion? It is nothing but the small passage for the sensory neurons as well as the motor neurons to come inside or go outside. That is actually the dorsal root of ganglion. Done. Okay. So eye and ear. Let me take a bit break. Let me see like whether the mobile phone is or camera is recording or not. Yeah. Okay. So we'll continue with the next one, that is eye. Very, very important structure. Very simple. Okay, imagine this diagram. Okay, because it's given in your NCERT textbook. Okay, so let us imagine this is actually the innermost layer of the eye. Innermost layer. What do you call for the innermost layer? Retina. Okay, so this is the cavity. The cavity filled with a liquid, and the cavity is called as vitreous chamber, or it is filled with a liquid called as vitreous or vitreous humor. Okay, vitreous humor or vitreous chamber. Okay, so here we have one more layer, that is the middle layer of the eye, but it extends till here only here. See, can you see it? Got it? And this is called as choroid region. Choroid. So choroid region is very important because it's containing certain cells called as melanocytes. What are melanocytes? The same cells. What is the function of melanocytes? Produce pigment, proteins, that is melanin. Obviously you can imagine the color of choroid then, black. Okay, and even the choroid also like supplied with the blood vessels. Okay, choroid has blood vessels, whereas retina no blood vessels, nothing else. Then how can they get the oxygen and nutrient? Very simple. The choroid is associated very closely to the retina, so this choroid is going to supply oxygen and nutrient to retina. Please write down this point. Choroid region or layer supplies oxygen and nutrient to retina. Very important. Okay, done. Next, the outermost layer. Okay, so we just draw that outermost layer. Outermost layer of the eye contains two important portion that is actually called as the sclera. Sclera is white portion, the white color portion in the eye, sclera. What is the function of sclera? Sclera actually contains blood vessels. It contains blood vessels. Common sense. You could see the blood vessels. Okay, so that is there, blood vessels. But here you see a bulge structure here, a bulgy structure here. So this bulgy structure is transparent. Okay, devoid of blood vessels. What is the meaning of devoid? No blood vessels. Okay, so that is the continuation part of sclera. Okay, but it is not called as sclera, it is transparent. That is cornea. You get a question from cornea. Cornea is the layer of the eye, outermost layer of the eye, which are devoid of blood vessels. Then how can they get oxygen and nutrient? Is the choroid is going to supply oxygen and nutrient? No, because see, the choroid is situated bit away from the cornea, correct? Here, the blood vessels which are actually connected to the sclera, okay, are going to release a liquid. We all know that from the blood a liquid oozes out. That is called as lymph, correct? So tissue fluid. Okay, so lymph which actually now travels to the cornea. Got it? That means in the cornea what you see? Lymph, not blood vessels. Lymph will be seen. Remember that. So lymph are going to provide oxygen and nutrient to cornea. Very important. Very, very important. Done. Okay. So now this is actually the junction. Okay. So this is cornea and this is the sclera. This is the junction. You see a junction where sclera meets cornea. Okay. That junction is called as canal of, I'll write here, canal of Schlemm. Very important. Canal of Schlemm. It is the junction between sclera and cornea. Canal of Schlemm. Note this point. Very important. There is a function of it. Okay. So here the choroid actually continues further to produce a small structure, and this is called as the choroid process, and this is actually called as choroid process or ciliary process. Okay, so we just write ciliary process. Ciliary process. This ciliary process have the ability to synthesize or produce a liquid which is actually present between cornea and this structure, that is lens. Oh, sorry, lens should be here. Okay, between lens and this cornea there is liquid. Here, liquid. The liquid is called as aqueous chamber containing aqueous humor. Aqueous humor. Okay, so who produces aqueous humor? Note this point, very important. Aqueous humor is produced from ciliary process or choroid process. Ciliary process. Note this point. Okay, so normally, every moment they produce this liquid, obviously excess liquid, that is aqueous humor, that has to be drained. It should be removed out. So the draining process will take place through the canal of Schlemm. Got it? That's what, when you touch your eye, it's moist. Okay, because of even tear also there. Okay, fine. But excess of the aqueous humor will be drained with the help of canal of Schlemm. Got it? Okay. So now this ciliary process is further continues to touch the lens, and this is actually called as ciliary muscles. Very important. Which structure or which muscle plays an important role in the movement of lens? Ciliary muscles. Ciliary muscles. Okay. Now we have a ligament here. That ligament is present exactly between the lens and the ciliary muscle. Can you see this white structure? Obviously everything is white. Okay. So this is ciliary muscle, and this structure is called as suspensory ligament. So you may get a question. Name the structure which is present between ciliary muscle and lens. That is suspensory ligaments. Note this point. Suspensory ligament. Done. Okay. Ciliary muscles play a vital role in the movement of the lens. Okay. That is like contraction and relaxation of the lens. Done. Okay. So now what is the outermost structure of the eye? There is a plastic like sheath from here it starts, which actually surrounds or protects sclera as well as cornea. What do you call? That is called as conjunctiva. Got it? Conjunctiva is nothing but the structure, a transparent structure which actually protects sclera as well as cornea. Outermost structure. Okay, so this is the thing. Now we'll talk about I did not tell you about here we have a small hole like structure that is actually formed because of colored portion of the eye, which is called as iris. Got it? So if this is the colored portion of the eye, iris is present just behind the aqueous chamber or aqueous humor, and just outside to the lens. Okay, so which is nothing but acts like a camera aperture. Like, got it? Contraction and relaxation of the iris normally produces a hole here. So this hole is called as pupil. Got it? Okay, done. So that is actually the thing. Iris, pupil done, lens done, vitreous humor done. Now what is this place? This place is called as blind spot. Very important. What is blind spot? It is the place of, or like the region of the eye where the optic nerve leaves the eye to the visual cortex of the brain. Okay, optic nerve leaves. Here you don't see cones and rods, completely absent. Okay, hence image cannot be formed or produced. That is blind spot. Exactly here, here, just above the blind spot, we have a small depression. Small depression. This is called as macula lutea. Macula lutea is the small depression, and this macula lutea is nothing but containing only cones. Only cones. Okay, if you just see, the macula lutea has a depression like triangular structure. This is the depression of the macula lutea. It is actually called as fovea. So fovea is nothing but the depression of macula lutea. Only cones are present in fovea. Fovea can also be called as yellow spot. See the names: yellow spot, fovea, macula lutea. Only cones are present. And you may get a question: name the site where only the color vision is produced. That is actually yellow spot, because only cones are there. Cones are associated with color vision and white light sensation. Done. Okay, so that is done. Now we'll talk about the retina, because retina is the place where okay, so we'll talk about retina. Fine. So here, if I just see take a small piece of retina and magnify that, you see 3 layers. Okay, so one layer is the rod, or it could be cones. Okay, rods or cones. The next layer is common actually. That is nothing but, I already told you, that is bipolar neuron, and this one is the ganglion cells. Okay, so this is the thing. So rods and cones. Let me just draw the diagram of rod, how it looks, because it could be asked, even though it is not given in your NCERT textbook, but there is a possibility of getting this question, like identify. Okay, so the rod look like this. So this is rods. Got it? Rods. What is the specialty of rods? Rods also called as visual purple. Very important. It is also called as visual purple. No confusion here. Rods are associated with scotopic vision. Okay. What is scotopic vision? Dark vision, dim light vision, scotopic vision. Or rods are also helpful in twilight vision. Okay. That is dim light vision. Okay. They are not associated with the color vision and white color sensation. Okay. That is scotopic or twilight vision. So that is rods. So rods actually mainly contains 2 important proteins. One is called as retinal, which is a derivative of vitamin A. Very important, you get this question. Vitamin A, retinal. Vitamin A makes retinal, a protein. Along with the retinal, you see one more protein which is called as opsin. When retinal and opsin together, present together, then actually it makes a structure, a bigger protein, which is called as rhodopsin. So name the protein present in rods. Rhodopsin. Rhodopsin is made up of 2 small proteins. Retinal, a derivative of vitamin A, and opsin. Done? Okay, so that's all about rods. Whereas cones are a bit different. Cones, see the structure. Looks like a cone. Okay, so like this. This is cone. Very simple. Just imagine this is looks like a rod. This is cone. Got it? Okay. So cones are actually called as visual violet. Okay, they are very, very important for the white light sensation. There are 3 different types of cones. One is red cones, green cones, blue cones. When all 3 cones stimulates, then obviously white light sensation is felt. That's it. When all 3 cones responds, obviously you see white color. That is the thing. Okay. So based on the combination red, green, red, or green, blue, green sensation, obviously you see different colors, blue, green, white, whatever it is. Okay. So that is visual violet. Okay. So it helps in color vision. Okay. Color vision. Done. Okay. So that is actually cones. Done. Okay. So now the bipolar neuron, no need to talk because one dendrite and one axon. Ganglion cells are the cells which are associated with or attached to your this one optic nerve. Okay, so optic nerve. Okay, so fine. So let me just talk about the mechanism of vision. Where nothing, just by taking rods as example because it's given in NCERT diagram. Okay, so this is rod. I'll go with rough diagram. Rod. Okay, so this one is the bipolar neuron, and we have another neuron, that is ganglion cells. Okay, ganglion, bipolar, rods. What is there in the rods? Rhodopsin. Okay, when actually light hits the rods, because rods are the one which actually are the direct cells get exposed to like light. Okay, so then here is the rhodopsin containing two proteins, that is retinal and opsin. Now when the light hits, the opsin detaches itself from the retina. Already it was bound, but now opsin separates, leaving retinal alone. Okay, so this brings conformational changes, structural changes in the rods. Rod structure changes. As a result, it hits the bipolar neuron. Now in the bipolar neuron, action potential is produced. Not in the rods. Rods cannot produce action potential. Okay, so here action potential is produced because stimulus. This is stimulus. Okay, action potential is produced, then it is carried by the ganglion, then into the optic nerve. Optic nerve connected to your visual cortex region of the brain. Done. So this is mechanism of vision. Simple, right? Easy. Okay. So this is all about eye. Now we go to one more concept, that is ear. Okay. So again I need to draw the diagram. Okay, see, so this is the ear structure. Remember that this is pinna, this is external auditory meatus, and what we have here is specialized glands. We have glands here. What is the function of these glands? These glands are nothing but called as ceruminous glands. Ceruminous glands. What is the function of ceruminous glands? They secrete wax. The wax can also be called as cerumen. Alright, so this is easy. Okay, you get this question. Cerumen from ceruminous glands present in external auditory meatus. And this one is the ear drum. What is the other name of it? It is also called as tympanic membrane. Correct? TM, tympanic membrane. So these three structure makes external ear. Now this is the middle ear. Okay, center part. So the middle ear mainly contains bones, ear ossicles. You get a question, name the ear ossicle. Okay, so which is the smallest ear ossicle? Okay, so we have this one is malleus. No confusion here, simply you remember Miss. Malleus, incus stapes. Incus stapes. Malleus is connected to the tympanic membrane. Incus is the middle bone. Stapes is the last. The stapes is connected to this structure. This is very important structure which is called as labyrinth. Okay, labyrinth. Okay, inner ear. Labyrinth got two important structures actually. I'll talk about it later. Okay, so here this stapes is now connected to this labyrinth structure, the inner ear, through a small window. A small opening is there. That window is called as, here the window is called as fenestra ovalis. What do you call? Fenestra ovalis. It is also called as oval window. Got it? Okay. So this fenestra ovalis now opens into this labyrinth. Let me erase everything because labyrinth is the most complex structure in the ear. Okay. Okay. Okay, so we talked about labyrinth. So for example, like, let me just, draw the first part of the labyrinth. See here, this is semicircular canal. So you see at the anterior most position of the labyrinth. Okay, so two vertical semicircular canal and one horizontal semicircular canal. You may get a question. There are three semicircular canal, two vertical, one horizontal, and ultimately, they are connected to the main portion of the labyrinth with a small node-like structure. Okay, so the connection, for example, let me draw that. Okay, so like this, it's nothing but a pipe. Okay, so whenever, the point of connection of the semicircular canal to the labyrinth portion, and it is called as crista ampullaris. Okay, this node are called as crista ampullaris. As I said, there are three semicircular canal, but they have two nodes. Like how much? Then total actually we have six ampulla. That is six crista ampullaris. Okay, each semicircular canals have two ampulla. That is crista ampullaris. Okay, so and now if I just take this one semicircular canal, because it's a labyrinth, and draw it, it looks like this: a big pipe, that is outside pipe, and inside you see a small pipe, that is pipe within a pipe. Outside big pipe, and inside also you see a small pipe. So that means you can imagine a big pipe and a small pipe inside. Okay, so this labyrinth is called as bony labyrinth. Bony labyrinth. Bony. Okay, so this portion is called as membranous labyrinth. Membranous labyrinth. Okay, so between the bony and membranous labyrinth, this portion, there is a liquid. You get a question. Name the liquid of bony labyrinth. The liquid is called as perilymph. Got it? Okay. So here we have membranous labyrinth, which is filled with a liquid called as endolymph. So this actually makes labyrinth, bony labyrinth and membranous labyrinth. Got it? Done. So now here the endolymph, for example, see, I am doing all this stuff now, and as a result, in my semicircular canal, the endolymph is there, right? In the membranous labyrinth, it moves. Okay? You can imagine a half-filled water bottle. You do this. Obviously, the water moves, hits the two sides of the bottle, correct? So when the endolymph starts moving within the semicircular canal, it hits the ampulla, that is crista ampullaris. They have specialized cells actually. Okay, so these cells send the message to your brain. Got it? Particularly to the cerebellum. Now actually cerebellum actually thinks, and automatically it corrects the body posture. This means semicircular canal plays an important role in balance. So that's what we say, like, here is the balance organ because of semicircular canal within that endolymph movement. Okay, so now this site is the continuation of the labyrinth, and this site contains two important structures. Okay, one is called as utriculus and other one is called as sulcus. I don't know if you have to remember this. Utriculus and sulcus. Okay, so they also contain specialized cells. Okay, so they also help in correcting the body balance. Fine, we'll not talk about it. Okay, so now if we continue the labyrinth, labyrinth continues further and coils like a snail, and this is the main organ of hearing. You may get a question, name the main organ of hearing. Cochlea is the main organ for hearing. Cochlea, not this point. Okay, so we'll talk about cochlea now because cochlea is very important. You may expect the diagram of cochlea. Very simple. We draw like this for our understanding. Okay, so we put three circles inside. Let us name this circle. This circle is actually called as scala vestibuli. Okay, so this one is called as scala media. This one is called as scala tympani. Okay, so three circles are there. Now you may get a question, name the liquid present inside the scala vestibuli or scala tympani. So the liquid is perilymph. That's what I write P here. Perilymph. There are two liquids, right? Perilymph, that is bony labyrinth, and endolymph. So within cochlea, the only circle that is containing endolymph, that is called as scala media. Scala media. So that is endolymph, not this one. Okay. So now below this scala media, oh I forgot, there is one structure here between scala vestibuli and scala media here. This is a membrane. Okay. So the name of the membrane is check the spelling, I think correct. Okay, Reisner's membrane. You may get a question. Name the membrane which is present between scala vestibuli, scala media. Reisner's membrane. Reisner's membrane. Or like scala vestibuli and scala media are separated by Reisner's membrane. Anything could be possible. Got it? Okay. So below this scala media, you see one small structure. This is actually called as basilar membrane. What do you call? Basilar membrane. Okay, basilar membrane. And here the basilar membrane contains some small organ, tiny organ is there. That organ is called as organ of Corti. What do you call? Organ of Corti. Got it? Okay. The organ of Corti containing small auditory hair cells. They are very like active cells. They respond very quickly, okay, to any kind of vibration. These are hair cells. Hair cells. Organ of Corti has hair cells. These hair cells are connected to a small structure here, another organ, and this is called as tectorial organ. Simple, right? I think it looks very simple. Three circles, and you could see the two membranes, and above the membrane there is a small organ, and organ containing hair cells. Okay, so hair cells are connected to tectorial organ. The tectorial organ is connected to your auditory nerve, which leads to auditory cortex region of the brain. Okay, so this tectorial membrane actually is attached to the hair cell. Now the endolymph, the vibration, obviously the pinna actually collects the vibration and put it into external auditory meters, then into tympanic membrane, then into malleus, incus, stapes, then into oval window, then into the utriculus, sulculus, and ultimately reaches the cochlea. In the cochlea, here the scala media containing endolymph that starts to vibrate and it hits the basilar membrane. When the basilar membrane vibrates, hair cells also vibrate within the organ of Corti. They starts bending. They bend and they hit this tectorial organ, and now this converts that everything, the vibration, into action potential. Then it is collected by your auditory nerve, which carries to your auditory cortex region of the brain. Based on the memory, learning, and all this stuff, you can recognize. I say hi. See, okay. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so that is all about the cochlea. Done. Okay, so next we go to one more concept, that is receptors. Okay, very important. Receptors are of many types, but main in NCERT, I don't know whether it's given or not, but let me talk. The first one is gustatory receptor. The second one is cutaneous. Third one is olfacto. These are the tiny cells, actually, the sense cells. Okay, gustatory means for taste. Now, obviously, you know that where exactly gustatory cells are present, that is in the tongue. Okay, cutaneous means touch. Okay, cells present within the skin. Cutaneous, touch. Olfacto, nose, smell. So that's all about it, receptors. Now I'll share a small video which is made on the cranial nerves and spinal nerves. Okay, so nerves. There are two types. One is the nerve which is actually coming from the cranium. They are called as cranial nerves, and other one which is called as spinal nerves. How many cranial nerves are there? 12 pairs. Spinal, 31 pairs. Got it? Okay. So spinal is very easy. You can imagine that code, actually, vertebral column code. What is it? City life is super cool. Okay, city life is super cool. Same, spinal. So here we write cervical spinal nerve. Okay, we have 8 pairs. Remember how many pairs? 8 pairs. Cervical spinal nerve. Okay, T, that is actually the next region. Thoracic spinal nerve. We have 12 pairs. Got it? Okay. Don't get confused with the formula. That is different. This is different. Okay. So that is actually vertebral column formula. City Life Super Cool. But same. Okay. Only we are remembering the names, words. So next is lumbar spinal nerve. We have 5 pairs. Next is sacral spinal nerve. We have 5 pairs. This one, C, last one, that is coccygeal spinal nerve. We have only one. You may get a question. Coccygeal spinal nerves. 1, 5, 12, 8. Go with 1. Or cervical spinal nerves, 8. Okay, so that's it. So this is all about it. But cranial nerves, there are 12 pairs. You have to remember its order. I don't remember. The first one is, I think, olfactory. Olfacto. Next comes optic. Third one is oculomotor. Okay, so yeah, it's a bit difficult. Fourth one is trigeminal. Okay, fifth one is trochlear. Seventh one auditory. 10th one is vagus. Okay, at least I can give you this. 10th one is vagus nerve. Vagus nerve. What is vagus nerve? It's a like motor. No, mixed. Yeah, it's a mix. Sensory plus motor. Okay, vagus nerve is a type of cranial nerve which is connected to your diaphragm. So contraction and relaxation of diaphragm is from vagus nerve. There are 12 actually. You can just, I'll share that video. In that video, I did not explain anything about the nerves. It's only like I gave the names, okay, in order. Just see that. Done. Write it down. So that's all about neural control and coordination. Okay, so fine. So now we got. We recalled all. Actually, I explained everything. Okay, done. Actually, it is more than sufficient for your need. Now we'll solve the MCQs.